From the station working for you, this is WRTV News at Noon, streaming now.
Welcome into WRTV News at Noon. I'm Nicole Griffin. Lauren Casey has the day off. Meteorologist Todd Clausen is standing by. And Todd, you had a busy morning keeping everyone updated on the fog. And I was just outside. You can't completely see the top of the One America building even still.
Yeah, you know, the fog is lifting. We don't have the dense fog anymore, so it's no longer really an issue for the roadways going forward. That's the good news throughout the afternoon hours. But yeah, you can't see the top of the buildings, or you can't see far down the street in some of your neighborhoods. But some of this fog will start to burn off as we work our way throughout the course of the afternoon hours. And you can see the skies trying to lighten a little bit there in the Bloomington area. But this is just going to be a slow process for us. And I think some of you, unfortunately, get stuck with the clouds throughout much of the day. But here are those visibilities, still reduced a little bit north of Indianapolis, but for the most part, those should not cause any issues. What you're looking at here with the black background is the visible satellite. So the clouds are obviously the bright part that you see in the white. What you're looking at here is for some pockets where the clouds are thinning. Here's one to the north, and there's a little bit down here to the south. And we'll continue to see these clouds thin gradually throughout the afternoon hours. It's going to be a slow process. It's not going to be very, very quick. We're talking a couple hours still, but the rain will stay off to our west. So even though it looks gloomy, you don't have to worry about rain showers. 60s and 70s right now. As the clouds start to thin, though, the temperature should start to climb pretty quickly into the upper 70s and 80s, at least from Indianapolis to the south. It's those of you in northern locations that the clouds hang a little bit longer. We'll dive into that in more detail and look ahead to your weekend coming up in just a few minutes. Nicole.
Todd, thank you. New this midday, police are trying to figure out how a semi-truck ran off of I-465 and flipped on the southeast side of Indianapolis. The crash happened just after 10 o'clock this morning. Then the semi came to a rest on its side near Elmwood Avenue, just east of Arlington. Rescue crews were able to get the driver out safely, and there was no immediate word on the condition of the driver. The COVID-19 pandemic continues to plague the job market. New claims for unemployment are on the rise in Indiana and across the country. First-time claims for regular unemployment rose slightly last week to more than 11,500. But applications for pandemic unemployment assistance and emergency pandemic unemployment were also up in Indiana. That means in all, more than 28,000 Hoosiers filed a claim for some type of unemployment benefit last week. Nationally, applications for regular unemployment and pandemic assistance were both up. As of 2 weeks ago, almost 30 million Americans are currently receiving some type of unemployment payments. Hundreds of families who may be having trouble paying for food during the pandemic are getting help today. Volunteers with Gleaners Food Bank handed out fresh fruits, vegetables, meat, and dairy products today outside the headquarters of Anthem. The insurance company's foundation made a $1 million match of donation to Gleaners' No One Runs on Empty campaign.
The need spiked really quick in March and April. And honestly, it has stayed, right now, it's about as close to those highs as it ever was.
Gleaners says that because of the pandemic, 1 in 5 Hoosiers continue to face some type of food insecurity. President Trump faces more criticism after admitting in taped interviews that he publicly downplayed the severity of the COVID-19 outbreak. Now the president is trying to walk back some of what he told veteran journalist Bob Woodward. ABC's Inez de la Cuatera has more.
President Trump insisting he did not mislead the American people when it comes to the COVID-19 pandemic.
We don't want to instill panic. We don't want to jump up and down and start shouting that we have a problem.
This after audio excerpts from an interview between legendary journalist Bob Woodward and President Trump appear to show Trump admitting his decision to publicly downplay the severity of the coronavirus was intentional. The series of 18 interviews were for Woodward's new book, Rage.
And so that's a very tricky one. That's a very delicate one. It's also more deadly than your strenuous flus.
Trump allegedly making those comments on February 7, but here he is just days later telling the American people the virus is like the flu.
You may ask about the coronavirus, which is very well under control in our country.
This is a flu. This is like a flu.
Then, in another call with Woodward, Trump acknowledging COVID-19 was impacting young people while publicly telling the American people the opposite.
Just today and yesterday, some startling facts came out. It's not just older young people, to plenty of young people. Well, I think, Bob, really, to be honest with you,
sure, I want you to.
I wanted to always play it down. I still like playing it down.
Yes,
because I don't want to create a panic.
But he did say in public several times that he didn't want to scare the public.
It will go away, and we're going to have a great victory. I want to keep the country calm. I don't want panic in the country.
With more than 190,000 American lives lost to the virus, Joe Biden on the campaign trail blasting the president's alleged comments.
He knew how deadly it was. It was much more deadly than the flu. He knew and purposely played it down. Worse, he lied to the American people.
Biden also saying he absolutely blames Trump for the deaths of thousands of Americans and says he should be kicked out of office as a consequence. Inez de la Cuetara, ABC News, Washington.
I did unspeakable things to protect my family, or watch them being done on my orders. I never lost a night's sleep over them.
She went from being a James Bond girl to being a secret agent to playing royalty. British actress Diana Rigg became a 1960s style icon as Agent Emma Peel in the TV series The Avengers. She then starred in the 1967 James Bond thriller On Her Majesty's Secret Service as the only woman to ever marry Agent 007. Later in her life, she played a lot of royal parts, including a famous role in Game of Thrones. Her agent says Diana Rigg was diagnosed with cancer back in March and died at her home this week. She was 82 years old. No matter what you think, you are not alone. Next, the lessons one man learned and is now sharing in hopes of saving others on this World Suicide Prevention Day. Todd.
And Nicole, we started off with patchy dense fog across the area. We're still dealing with reduced visibility, but the clouds should start to burn off as we make our way throughout the afternoon hours, at least just a little bit. We're never going to completely get rid of them. We'll talk all about it coming up in your WRTV Storm Team forecast when the news at noon continues.
That feeling that I used to have of being alone, like it's all mental, but it's also a lot.
Today is World Suicide Prevention Day. It's where we are encouraged to talk openly about mental health struggles, especially as more people might be dealing with anxiety and depression during this difficult year. Our Cameron Riddle introduces us to a man who's on a mission to share a lesson that took him years to learn when it comes to mental health.
Marcus Watts is familiar with mental health struggles after surviving the darkest days of his life in his mid-20s.
When my friends passed, it was like a domino effect because I lost 5 people close to me in a matter of like 18 months, 2 years. So 3 to gun violence and then the 2 that died by suicide. So I just kind of was trying to find my way.
At the time, Watts was also battling alcohol addiction. Today, at 30 years old, he's sober and has indeed found his way, using motivational speaking to help other people understand they are not alone. Watts never attempted to take his own life, but realized if he didn't get help, an unreversible action could lie ahead.
I was struggling with finding my purpose. I always played sports, so I went to college for a couple of years, and when the sports didn't pan out, you kind of feel lost. And now you're 22, 23, no job history, so it's hard to find a job. I had my first son when I was 18, so I was already a parent. Those type of things, start to catch up with you.
In this Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month, Watts will be among the voices heard Thursday during Radio 1's Stop the Music broadcast, highlighting mental health issues. During this pandemic especially, he is speaking up in hopes of reminding everyone that your fears or anxiety are shared by your neighbors, whether working from home, not working at all, or working in a high-risk environment.
And I saw that happen with, like, my sister and my mother who works at the VA hospital, and even my spouse losing her job. due to all these things. So, you know, it took a toll on me and a lot of my friends and family as well.
The words on Watts' shirt say alone is a lie. He says that's the message anyone feeling alone should understand.
If you feel like you're alone and in your mind it's just repeating that, it's telling you that, like, you don't need to reach out to anyone because they're not going to understand you. Your parents won't understand. Your friends won't understand. That feeling of being alone, it's a lie.
Cameron Riddle, WRTV.
Cameron, thank you. Our Rebound Indiana initiative here at WRTV has been sharing with you mental health resources and tips since the pandemic began. Anyone in the state can dial 211 to access help, and you can also find links to organizations like the Bowen Center right now at WRTV.com/rebound. Wind-blown wildfires are leaving a path of destruction out west. Next, how they could end up being the costliest fires ever seen in that region. And here's a live look outside at this midday. Meteorologist Todd Clausen will have a look at your Thursday forecast just ahead. You can see that fog still hanging around. You're watching the news at noon right here on WRTV. It started as a California problem, but now numerous wildfires are leading to deaths and destruction in more than a dozen states out west. ABC's Rena Roy has the latest.
Thousands are fleeing their homes up and down the West Coast in a desperate attempt to escape the fires ravaging 14 states.
Will it probably not be on fire?
No, honey.
For some, it was too late. At least 8 people have been found dead. A child in Washington state died. His parents critically burned while trying to escape the Cold Springs wildfire. 3 victims discovered lifeless in Butte County, California, where 2 fires combined to create explosive conditions. 12 other people are missing and several are injured just outside of Sacramento. The North Complex fire quickly turning into one of the largest in the state's history, at its peak scorching 1,000 acres every half an hour. The San Francisco Bay Area shrouded in a thick layer of smoke, the skyline a fiery orange. From space you can see the entire West Coast covered by a hazy cloud. Firefighters in Oregon are battling 48 fires across the state, high winds and high heat fueling the flames. ABC's Matt Gutman is there in the thick of it all.
I've been covering fires for half a dozen years or more. I've never seen anything like this. The sky completely orange at 11 o'clock in the morning.
At least 3 in Medford, Oregon have died and homes have been destroyed all over. People coming back to charred remnants.
Everything we have is here. We have nothing but this here, clothes on my back, and that's it.
But I just can't believe that the whole thing is gone, everything.
As people face the task of rebuilding their lives, Oregon's governor warns this could be the greatest loss of human life and property from wildfires in the state's history. Rena Roy, ABC News, New York.
Well, if you happen to be up early this morning, you may have seen this. This is the time-lapse video from our tower camera overlooking part of downtown. The fog rolled in quickly, and as you can see, everything on the ground gradually disappears. And Todd, that time-lapse is pretty interesting. I know you put that together. What can people expect for the rest of the day?
You know, the fog is lifted in the sense that we don't have the dense fog anymore and no longer have that dense fog advisory, but the clouds are still present and they're still pretty thick across the area. Here's a live look in Bloomington right now, and you can see the overcast sky still, with the skies trying to brighten just a little bit, but we have a lot of moisture suspended in the atmosphere, and it's going to take a little while for the sun to burn that off. And it may not even happen in far northern locations where the clouds are a little bit thicker, but you notice you don't get too far south of Bloomington over towards Greensburg here, and the clouds are breaking apart already. Seymour into sunshine, as is Bedford. So that clearing trend should continue from south to north here throughout the afternoon hours, but patience is the name of the game here, as it's going to take a while for a lot of that cloud cover to burn off in northern locations. So while it may look threatening with the clouds, we're not expecting any rain. That's going to stay off to our west. So that's the good news. You don't have to worry about that if you're thinking about heading out for a walk or a run through the neighborhood. So at least that is good news. And you can see how the clouds break apart throughout the evening hours, but then they kind of come right back in overnight and throughout the day tomorrow. And we're going to be, because tomorrow's going to be one of those days where we're going to be battling the clouds back and forth just a little bit. Now, where the sun's out in Connorsville and Bedford, look at the temperature, 80 degrees already. Then where the clouds are a little bit thinner in Bloomington and Columbus and Martinsville, we're in the low 70s. Then you get to the north where the clouds are thicker, and it's in the 60s in Tipton as well as Peru. Now, high temperatures are going to follow this trend throughout the remainder of the afternoon. The further north you are, the cooler it's going to be. We're talking about highs in the upper 70s to maybe right around 80 degrees. You come south, temperatures will be climbing into the low to mid 80s with these highs being late in the afternoon. And then we still can get into the mid 80s as you work your way from Bedford over towards Seymour with the additional sunshine a little bit sooner in the afternoon. So this evening we'll call partly to mostly cloudy but dry with temperatures that will be in the 70s. And then for the day tomorrow, could be a little bit of patchy fog and cloudy skies once again in the morning hours. Then as the day progresses, we'll thin those clouds out a bit to temperatures that will be in the 70s for us. And looking ahead to the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, we're back up into the low 80s. Saturday's the chance of an isolated storm or two in the forecast. Right now, it looks like most of that rain activity would probably be towards sunset and then into the evening hours. So it may time out well with daytime plans on Saturday. And then the showers on Sunday are probably in the morning before turning partly cloudy in the afternoon. Once we get past Sunday morning, we have a great stretch of weather. We talked about Sunday afternoon, but as we work our way into next week, low temperatures in the 50s, high temperatures in the upper 70s to low 80s with lots of sunshine. Should be a really, really nice stretch next week. But again, it's just a little gloomy out there right now, but those clouds should start to thin out from south to north just a little bit here throughout the afternoon hours. Nicole.
All right, Todd, thank you. Well, up next, a woman thought a burglar was in her house, and someone indeed did break in, but it wasn't what that homeowner expected. That story's coming up next. You're watching the news at noon right here on WRTV. A woman called police to her home in Florida to help get a wild intruder out of her house, but this wasn't just any ordinary burglar. Scripps reporter Julie Solomon on that bandit that had this homeowner clinging to her curtains.
I have a raccoon in my house. Right now I have it shut up in my bedroom. I'm needing to get somebody to come over and get it out of my house.
Two Tampa police officers show up to help a homeowner after a masked intruder breaks in.
Sorry, bud.
The raccoon plays a quick game of hide and seek under a bed before scampering out of the room. Paula Tyler says the chase started around 7:30 Sunday night. Her windows and doors were closed. She says the critter came into her house through the attic.
This light fixture had fallen down. I heard the noise, and the raccoon was in the corner hanging on the curtain itself.
Tyler says before calling officers, she tried to rescue the raccoon herself.
This one didn't look like it was mean or rabid or anything. It just looked like it was scared.
Police officers were able to get the raccoon out through this door. Tyler says she first called a trapper who would have charged $300 to remove the raccoon. That's when she decided to call the police non-emergency line.
Out the door, out the door, out the door.
Tyler is grateful for the assistance and apologizes for the wild chase.
They did what they did. They went above and beyond.
All right, well, what a crazy situation there, Todd. I'm always concerned like a bird could fly in my house or something, and then I would really be freaking out.
Yeah, from now on, you're gonna be laying in bed. You're gonna be like, "What's that noise?" And now you're gonna be thinking, "Oh, could it be a raccoon?" So, thankfully, they got it out all right. 82 degrees here this afternoon in the city south. Cooler to the north with more in the way of clouds. Partly cloudy tomorrow. Could start off with a little bit of fog again tomorrow morning at 77. Then the weekend's a little bit warmer with some spot storm chances Saturday into Sunday. And then next week looks absolutely terrific. Lots of sunshine, comfortable temperatures both in the morning and in the afternoon. Nicole.
All right, Todd, thank you. And thank you for joining us. Join us right back here for the news at 5. Have a great afternoon.